Hello, guys. So, with paper 2 for English language coming up in about a week and a half, we're going to start a series of videos where I'm going to go through the questions in the reading section and then question 5 as well. So, question 1 is true or false. Nothing too difficult about that. So, I'm going to move straight on to question 2, which is a summary question. So you need to summarize the similarities or differences between two texts about one focus. So remember, with paper 2, there's two texts, both non-fiction, about the same topic, there or thereabouts. And one will be like from nowadays, and one will be from the past, the 19th or the 20th century. So in this question, you need to compare similarities or differences between one key focus. Now, what is the focus in this question? We can see the writers in source A and source B stay in very different campsites. Use details from both sources to write a summary of what you understand about the differences between the two camping sites. So, what is the focus? It's differences between two camping sites. So, you can find it in that last statement there. This is the focus, differences between two camping sites. So, you want to find a quote from source A and match it to a quote from source B to find the differences. So you're finding quote from source A, then matching it to a quote from source B. And 2 or 3 quote matches will be enough. And you also need to find inferences. Now, what is an inference? Is when you read between the lines, when you work out something extra from the information you're given. It's not actually said, but you can work it out from the information you're given. For example, if they gave you information like a man was frowning. Now, that's the information, but we could work out that he might be frustrated. He might be upset about something. Something could have happened which upset him, or he might have remembered something that upset him. All of this is information we're working out. It's not told us. So this is what inferences are. And you want to find 1, 2, or 3 inferences. If you find a lot of detailed inferences, you only need to match 2 quotes from the text. But if you struggle with the inferences, I would recommend 3 quotes with less inferences. And that way you can still get a lot of marks. So let's read the sources and find the differences between the two camping sites. So if we're looking at source A, it's the more modern one. And we can see that this campsite had a table tennis hut. So you can highlight that. It had a pool. There you go. But in source B, we can see actually that this one it said the forest is untouched by the axe. So it doesn't have anything. So that would be 2 similarities there, or 2 differences, sorry. There we can say table tennis hut, pool, versus the forest is untouched. It's got nothing. There's no facilities there. So they kind of have different facilities. One's more developed. If we go in further to source A, obviously you would have read it more carefully, but we can find another aspect that, oh no, that's source B. In source A, we can see the caravan awnings were being winched in. So they've got caravans there. They've got a lot of places. There's like a proper campsite where people often go and they can park their caravan and they can stay there. Whereas in the second one, it's more of a temporary shelter that they literally just build in the middle of a forest on the day. And at the end, it becomes a dismantled shelter where they leave and never return to. So it's kind of like one is more permanent with caravan awnings, whereas the other one is just a temporary shelter. And let's find one more just for the sake of it. We can see in source A, they're staying in tents. And in the tents, we can see that they've got sleeping bags. They've also got a ground sheet. They also got an air bed. So they've got like these nice equipment for sleeping, modern equipment. Whereas in the second one, they haven't got any such thing because it's in the past, probably don't have that technology. And they just have bedding, which gets wet when it's raining. So we can see the last difference could be they got airbed, sleeping bag, whereas the other one is just bedding and water soaked through the blanket. So there you go. That is the differences between the campsites. Now, the way I like to address this, guys, is squid ski. It's also basically like PEE, but basically start with a statement about source A and use the keywords from the question. You give a quote, then you give some inferences. What can we work out from that? And then we link it with the discourse marker. Like, on the other hand, if there's a difference, and you give a quote from source B and you find the inference from that. And you do that 2 or 3 times. Whatever you have done in 10 minutes, just move on after that because it's only 8 marks. But see how much you can do there. So, for example, we could say in source A, the campsite has modern accommodation, such as, and I'm giving my quote, caravan awnings and tents. Now I could just talk about what does that tell me about that. So this may suggest it's a permanent campsite where campers and visitors attend regularly. It suggests the visitors are prepared for different weather conditions and can bring their vehicles to secure spots all year round. See, we're just trying to think, okay, what does that tell me about this place? What can I work out? Can I read between the lines? Now I'll link it to the next one and say, by contrast, in source B, the campsite relies on nature itself. On nature itself. Actually, no. What I'm gonna sorry, I made the wrong comment there. By contrast, in source B, the campsite has temporary short-term accommodation built in the moment, built on the day. Sorry. Well, actually, no. Let's first say temporary short-term accommodation. Shown by the dismantled shelter. This implies that the shelter is built on the day with surrounding equipment and is not intended to be permanent. In fact, it is abandoned the very next day and is not suitable for further habitation. So that's that. That's one there. Now let's do the next one. In source A, oops. Okay, I don't know why that is. In source A, the campsite has modern facilities, such as a table tennis hut and pool. So you see, each one is starting with a statement about source A and the campsite, which is the focus of this question. Then it's given a quote, and now I'm going to give some inferences there again. So what does it tell me? It tells me that, again, it's a very permanent site, which is trying to have a lot of activities for people. It's a permanent site with lots of entertainment and activities for visitors. It may even be, because it seems like more things that children might enjoy, it may even be more focused on families and children in particular, as there is lots of physical and interactive games available. As there are lots of physical and interactive games available. By contrast, I've said the same ones, so let's vary that. However, in source B, the campsite is an untouched forest. This suggests that the camp is in the wilderness, in the wild, or in the wilderness, far away from civilization. Now, I might bring it back. It's probably not for children here. So it suggests that it's more targeted towards adults who want to escape the stress of a city and are happy to live in more uncomfortable, wild conditions. So that'll probably be enough, guys, but let's just do one more just to show you. So I'm going to say, finally, in source A, the campsite and tents have better equipment for sleeping, such as an airbed and sleeping bags. So this suggests the visitors have more modern, portable methods to protect against the cold and are more prepared for poor conditions. But on the other hand, source B. On the other hand, the campsite in source B simply has bedding, which means the water can soak through the blanket. Now, what does that suggest? Firstly, I could talk about the fact that it's in the past. It suggests that, in the past, camp goers did not have the best technology or tools to deal with poor weather conditions and are much less prepared and were much less prepared than those today. So there you go. That would be a full mark answer, guys, because we found 3 differences and we found inferences as well. So really, you just need to find 2 if you got this many inferences. If you're struggling with that, you can find 3 quote matches. So if you have any questions, put them in the comments, guys, and I'll be more than happy to help. But practice so you feel confident with this question. And when 10 minutes are up, just move on to the next one, even if you haven't written this much, because you want to focus more on question 3, 4, and 5 to get maximum marks.